Let's ask a guy who knows, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. And Michael, great to see you. Appreciate you joining us today. What is it like in Tel Aviv right now? According to reports, this is the least amount of rockets and missiles that have come into your country since the altercation began 9 days ago.
Well, great to be with you, Brian. About an hour and a half ago, we were running into our shelters again, but Iran fired one missile that was taken down by our interceptors. That is an immense reduction from what had been firing at us. In 2024, twice Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at us. At the beginning of this round of fighting, 200, then down to 100, 60, 40, 10, and now tonight, 1. The IDF has said that it has destroyed over half of Iran's launchers, much of the missile arsenals, and we're seeing the effects of that literally tonight. And Iran's proxies around the region, Hamas, certainly Hezbollah, and the Houthis, they're not firing at us either. So in pure military terms, this is an extraordinary achievement.
So this is what some people are saying. Well, President Trump got himself into this mess by walking away and tearing up the JCPOA. What's the reality of the deal as you viewed it? And what do you think the president accomplished by ripping it up and walking away from it?
This war broke out not because President Trump withdrew from the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal of 2015, but because the JCPOA was signed to begin with. The JCPOA didn't dismantle a millimeter of Iran's nuclear facilities. None of those facilities that you mentioned on your map earlier, Brian, were taken apart by the JCPOA. So which meant that Iran, whenever it wanted to, even if it had shipped out a lot of its nuclear material, it would always replenish them very, very fast. And the JCPOA didn't prevent Iran from developing centrifuges that could enrich uranium 6 times the rate of 2015. The JCPOA did not in any way inhibit Iran's development of intercontinental ballistic missiles that can carry nuclear warheads. It didn't inhibit the development of warheads themselves. And simply all it did was give tremendous amount of money to Iran, billions and billions of dollars that Iran spent on terror. And the world's largest state sponsor of terror, Iran was the financer and the trainer of the terrorists who conducted that horrific attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, triggering this war. This war was ignited by the JCPOA, not by President Trump's decision to withdraw from that terrible agreement.
I had a chance to talk to Secretary of State Rubio before the show, and he said one thing that's been very important to point out. In 2022, the IAEA said they had 95 pounds to Iran of highly enriched uranium. In May of 2025, it's at 900 pounds. Why would anyone not conclude that was worried about the welfare of the world, let alone Israel, that they were going to use this for a weapon?
Let's go back even further, Brian, if you will. Fordow. Okay, Fordow was built under a mountain secretly. I was in the room when it was exposed back in 2009. This is a country that has one of the greatest oil deposits in the world. It's a great exporter of oil. All of China operates on Iranian oil. Why would it need a civilian nuclear program? And why, with a new civilian nuclear program, would you build a secret facility under a mountain? And by the way, civilian nuclear power, costs 40 times as much as oil does. Right. So you're not doing this to save money. And clearly, Iran had been enriching uranium illegally, secretly, in violation of all of its commitments in the world, developing a warhead. We know they were developing a warhead. Israeli agents in 2018 broke into the nuclear archive in Tehran and took out documents to show that they've been working on a warhead. And of course, they had those missiles too. And so, putting this all together, it walks like a duck and talks like a duck. It's going to be a duck. And clearly, that Iran was moving toward a military nuclear capability. And Israel's margin for error. This is an important point, Ryan. Israel's margin for error here was exactly 0. We made a single mistake in our estimates of Iran's nuclear ambitions and capabilities. And that's the end of this country. It's the end of my family. Intensely personal. And Israel and its government made a decision which the vast majority, I would claim, close to 99% of Israelis support that decision.
Ambassador, how many presidents had to deal with the Iranian problem, 5 or 6 or 7? And no one's ever dealt with it directly, ever before, until this president came around. How important is this move? You were quoted as saying to Joe Biden you wanted him to have a Dirty Harry moment. a moment of decisive, forceful retaliation. He never did it. Do you think it was something unique about President Trump that said, I looked at this situation and I have no choice, and where other presidents felt differently?
The Iranians have been, as I mentioned earlier, is the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. They're responsible for the murder of 243 Marines in Beirut in 1983. Even in the last 2 years, Iranian proxies have fired dozens and dozens and dozens of rockets at American bases in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. They've killed American service people. They've wounded hundreds of American service people, closed international shipping through a proxy through the off the coast of Yemen. I mean, it is one provocation after another, and no president, going back to Reagan was the last president who actually fired at the Iranians, ever fired a single bullet at the Iranians. Nothing. No comeuppance for the Iranians. No response. And President Trump has finally changed the game. And let me be very specific about that. What can change here? We're talking about the ability to not just end Iran's support for terror, but to open the way to peace throughout the Middle East. It's peace between Israel and Lebanon, peace between Israel and Syria, peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and maybe with the change of regime in Tehran, peace between Israel and Iran as well. And that's a game changer. It's a message to the Chinese. I guarantee you there are people in Beijing tonight thinking, maybe we should rethink our plan to take Taiwan. Maybe this guy is saying he's willing to stand up.
Ambassador,
everything changes.
You know our politics very well. And you know, saying regime change, we're not going to do regime change because, as Colin Powell famously said, if you break it, you own it. We don't want to own this country. But there's just no way anyone like you who's been studying the region and studied the Iranian government over the last 40 years would ever think that they're going to come to the table and say, you know what, I don't need a nuclear program. How do we work this out? It's not going to be with these guys. I guarantee you.
Well, they'd have to be, they'd have to completely change their DNA. They are a jihadist regime.
Yes.
They are about conquering the Middle East and then using the Middle East as a springboard for conquering the world. You're asking them to be completely altered as in their worldview. But, I don't understand how that would actually be, because it's like, saying, I hate comparisons with Nazi Germany in the 30s, but, it's like saying to Nazi Germany in the 30s, well, you can't have airplanes, but you can have tanks and you can have rockets and you can have submarines and destroyers. Just can't, and you can, by the way, you can stay Nazis. Yeah. It's not going to work.
Evil's evil.
And eventually you're going to strike an agreement with them. They're just going to lie. They're going to cheat. And you're going to find yourself back, 5-10 years from now, back on October 7th, 2023. So yes, there has to be a fundamental change, that will open the door to peace.
Yep,
and
your
I think
analogy
the president will be remembered as one of the great peacemakers of all time.
Absolutely. You have to show strength to get to peace, and that's what this is an example of, it seems. Ambassador Michael Oren, great job. Thanks so much. Very valuable voice through all of this.
Good night.
Meanwhile, Israel versus Iran. The debate is